Hey, it's your main man Sabado. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're exploring a crucial topic for retirees, the importance of setting boundaries. Retirement's a time for relaxation and pursuing passions, but without clear boundaries, it could become overwhelming. So let's dive into why boundaries are essential for retirement and how to establish them correctly. And if you're like me, once people realize that you retired, it seems like your time becomes everybody else's time, and everybody else has an idea of what it is that you need to do with your time. Or if you have other obligations with groups or anything else, what you start to find is those groups can start to consume you like a job. And so without strong boundaries, you could find yourself being even busier in retirement than you were when you were working. So on that note, let's get into it. First, let's understand what boundaries are. There's a lot of talk about what boundaries are, and what I want to do is I want to make sure that we have a common base of understanding. And so boundaries help determine what is and what isn't acceptable in our relationships and in our daily lives. They protect our well-being and ensure our time and energy are respected. And how many times have we wanted to just stay home and not do something? We told our friend and our friend just shows up. Or how many times does somebody make a joke about you that's inappropriate or something like that, or ask you to do things? Or I know, like, I'm in a master gardener program, and they seem to have meetings on Tuesday nights from 6 to 8:30, and then classes at 8:30 in the morning. And so if I try to do everything, I end up burning myself out doing something that I love, and then I'd probably quit altogether. So boundaries take on a whole different complexion based on what you're dealing with. And so it's really important to kind of have that base of understanding of what boundaries are. One key area where boundaries are vital is in preserving your personal time. Retirement often brings increased free time, leading others to assume that you're always available. Setting clear boundaries ensure that you dedicate time to the activities and hobbies that bring you joy and fulfillment. I went out of town for a funeral this last weekend, and I had a friend of mine last week that I said, maybe we'll golf on Tuesday. Well, I was gone from Thursday to Sunday. It was a real emotional time, and under normal circumstances, I might have said, yeah, let's go ahead on Tuesday and golf. But what occurred to me is that I needed the time to decompress, to deal with some of the emotions, because there was a lot to it. And so I told him I couldn't do it because I had to set that boundary for myself. Otherwise, I may have gone and golfed with him and then had some anxiety come up because I was feeling the emotions that I was feeling over the weekend. And then I end up impacting that relationship because of something that had nothing to do with him. And think about how often does that happen to us. Let me know if you've had similar situations down in the comments. But it's not an uncommon thing. And remember, it's okay to say no. If something doesn't align with your interests or your priorities, it's not being selfish to say no. It's essential for maintaining your balance and well-being. I tell people all the time that my priorities are my time, my relationship with my wife, and my health. And so if something isn't contributing to one of those three things, then whether or not I do it is going to be based on the situation and at the time. Now, I will say that I do golf for my health, and people laugh at me. My mom's friend laughs at me, and my mom laughs at me when I say it's exercise. But when you go out and you walk 6 miles and you're swinging a club, that's a lot of exercise. But I digress. But you have to be able to say no, because if you don't, then you just become the yes person. And then that one moment that you can't do something, guess what happens? You become the bad person because you said no, because 90% of the time you say yes, the one time you say no. So it must be something that they did. Again, because the boundaries hadn't been established ahead of time, that person is going to take it personal, which then is going to take time from your life because you're going to be thinking about them if it's somebody you care about. And boundaries also play a crucial role in maintaining healthy relationships. While they define acceptable behaviors and interactions, fostering trust and respect, without boundaries, misunderstandings can arise, leading to stress and resentment. And I think I mentioned that earlier. People are going to ask you to do things. People are going to want to spend your time. People are going to have plans for what you're going to do in retirement, and you have to establish those plans ahead of time for your own retirement and see if they fit into what it is you're trying to do. Again, it's hard because as I had a career in the service of others, and I deeply care about people and I deeply care about my friends, but even with my friends, I have to set boundaries, because otherwise I either get too far into their mix or they're too far in mine, or they're dealing with stuff that's going on with me. And different people will have different roles to play. So the idea is, and I try to always think of what does it mean and how do you do it. By communicating your limits clearly, you ensure that your interactions remain positive and supportive. People can usually deal with what's in front of them, but a lot of times where people get frustrated is because they don't know. I don't want to. I don't want. I had some friends that I used to golf with, or some people I used to golf with, and there was a point where I had to set up a boundary because they were just different than me. So I wanted to stop golfing with them. And so I told the guy, I'm not going to golf with him on Sundays anymore. And he took it some kind of way. But what I didn't realize is that my frustration over the year prior to that, they actually saw that. And because I hadn't set that boundary sooner, then what ends up happening is that sometimes, and I don't want to say lashing out because I never yelled or cussed at anybody, but my behavior would change. And I remember when there were times that I tried to peel back, then I'd get the phone call, hey, you're not coming out. Why? What's wrong? And instead of saying, hey, this is what's going on, I would continue to do it at my own detriment. And then eventually it came to a place where my physical presence created, a sense that there needed to be some distance. So learn to set boundaries is a sign of self-care and self-respect. It's essential to recognize your limits and maintain a healthy caregiving relationship. So in order to have those relationships, you have to be clear. One of the things that my wife and I do a lot is we speak in terms of our own boundaries. So it's people are always going to do what it is that they do, and they're going to say what they need to say. But at the end of the day, as much as we respect others, we always want to make sure that others respect us as well. And if we're around people that don't respect us, then you have to ask yourself, should you be around that person? But a lot of times, if there's something that we do, there's something we don't want to do, or I want to do something and she doesn't, she'll explain to me that this isn't the right time. I need to spend the time to do stuff that's for me, or I need to relax, or I need to do something different, or I want to, and that's fine because I do the same thing. Hey, look, sometimes I need to get away from the house because I need to spend time by myself. I like to be kind of out in nature, moving around. It's not because I love you any less. It's because I need to do for me. But when you get people around you that then start to take it personal, even when you explain it to them, well, then you start dealing with issues of trust, and there's a bunch of the other issues. Because unfortunately, not everybody has the same perspective of looking out for your best interests like that. And retirement really alters daily routines and social interactions. So proactively setting boundaries helps align your relationships with your current preferences and interests, facilitating a smooth transition into this new phase. If people think all of a sudden you're going to retire and you're going to be able to do everything you want them to do, now you've got a different issue. I'm involved with a couple of community groups, and these community groups can easily move out of control. But again, when I look at my priorities, my relationship with my wife, my time and my health, if I start participating in these community meetings and then start going to the community votes and then go to all the community outreach, now what I'm doing is I'm spending 40 hours a week going out doing community stuff. And then what about the 40 hours that week that I'm going to spend with my wife, or that 40 hours a week that I'm going to spend exercising, or that 40 hours a week that I'm going to spend chilling? I can't do that. And that's fine if that's what I want to do. But if I don't want to do it, then that's not what I'm going to do. And then ask yourself how well your current relationships align with your preferences and interests. I had a friend of mine, my wife hates when I say this, but I had a friend of mine one time that said, he said the one you go to the dance with isn't always the one that you leave with. And there's people that helped you to that journey. A lot of us have a lot of work friends, and unfortunately, a lot of our work friends are just friends that helped us get through the day, because we all had this need for social interactions, but we didn't have a lot more in common than that. And so if there's an expectation now that I have all this free time, I'm going to spend more time with them, well, that's just not going to be the case. And be proactive in realigning your network. And that's clutch, because if you realign your networks to fit, then you're around people that understand you. I always say that the best relationships are the ones with people that get you. Not everybody's going to like everything that everybody does, but they're going to respect the fact that you're doing what it is that you do. kind of like if anybody's seen Jackie Brown, the movie, and if you have, please let me know in the comments. But if you've seen the movie Jackie Brown, there's a point where Samuel Jackson's girlfriend tries to sleep with Robert De Niro. And then Robert De Niro says to Samuel Jackson, do you trust Melanie? And then he said his response to him is that I don't trust Melanie, but I trust Melanie to be Melanie, because he knew that she was going to do that. Well, it's the same thing with our friends. It's if they know what the expectations are, and you know that you're around people that get you, then they're going to understand when you need to change gears at some point, because it's important for them or for you, for your own well-being. But people that don't get you, they're really in that relationship with you for what you can do for them. And you got to ask yourself, is that the type of relationship that you want? And I'm not talking about with your wife and your girlfriends and stuff like that. I'm talking about with others, even members of your own family. And so you have to define, a lot of times we think relationships just take on this, they take on this life of their own. But the reality is they don't. Relationships are a two-way street, and they're a living system that are constantly moving. So you have to make sure that you realign and make sure that you only really interact with people that are looking out for your best interests. Otherwise, you'll end up retiring, doing more work for them, and then end up frustrated. And ask yourself, is it working for me? And if it's not working for you, change. And then lastly, the last thing I'll talk about today is, boundaries are essential for enhancing mental and physical health. Saying no and setting limits can significantly improve overall well-being, reducing your stress, and contribute to a healthier, more balanced lifestyle. Again, a lot of us, whether we know it or not, suffer from things like anxiety and depression and, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, if you're doing things that you want to do when you want to do it, like I say in my retirement, I have the opportunity to do what I want to do when I want to do it, or nothing at all. Well, it's the same thing. And this isn't these tips here. I'm talking within the auspices of retirement, but these are just in life. The more you're able to say no, and the more comfortable you are to define how you want your space to move, the better off you're going to be, the happier you're going to be, because you're going to know that where you are is where you want to be. I was just in a conversation this morning, and I was talking about my personal mission statement to uplift the human condition in any way that I can. Well, the funny part was I got asked a question about gardening and some of this other stuff is, what's your motivation for doing it? Do you think you're going to make some money doing it at some point or something of that nature? And my answer is no. I'm doing it because my personal mission statement is to uplift the human condition any way that I can. I know that I represent a small minority of people that are able to retire early, and an even smaller proportion of people that look like me that are able to retire early. So my goal is to help inspire people by giving them good information, or help people understand what the possibilities are based on what I've learned from my own situation, or give people some of the places to look for information that they can determine what the best path is for them. But it's really about helping other people, and I could do that. So with the gardening, I'll be volunteering at elementary schools and all these different things, but it'll be on my own terms. Nobody's going to tell me you have to do this, you have to do that. And if they do, then I stop, because at the end of the day, I'm still going to be a gardener. I'm still going to uplift the human condition. I just may find a different context in order to do it. But that's important to me for being a balanced person. So recognizing and respecting personal boundaries can lead to a significant improvement in overall well-being and life satisfaction. So setting boundaries in retirement is crucial for leading a fulfilling and balanced life. By preserving personal time, maintaining healthy relationships, preventing caregiver burnout, navigating changing social dynamics, and enhancing your health, you can make the most of this rewarding phase of life. And again, retirement is never the destination. It's just a phase. And now it's just a time where I can do what I want to do when I want to do it, or nothing at all, without having to take into account somebody that I'm working for. And I know there's going to be trolls on here that are saying, well, you're doing a YouTube channel and that's work. You know what? Haters are going to hate. I don't even really need to respond to it, because at the end of the day, all right, but guess what? I'm not working today. What are you doing? I'm putting together a YouTube channel. today? What are you doing? I'm picking weeds in the front of my house today. What are you doing? So it's just one of those things. And what are you going to do for the rest of the week? So, in closing, I just want to say, thanks again for joining me today. I'm trying to give you news you can use, whether you're retired or not. It's never my expectation that you retire early, but it is my expectation that you live your best life. And I just want to make sure that I provide you information that I learned along the way that may point you in the right direction and help you get there. Because at some point, you may be looking at retirement, and for some of us, retirement isn't in the cards. But with some of these perspectives, you could still live the life that you want to live and be as balanced as you can. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell for more insights on living your best retirement life. And then I'll see you next time. Have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.